Hello, good evening. Welcome to UPFront. Tonight, we focus on the critical development in the fight against illegal mining, as organized labor has called off its intended nationwide strike. Now, just hours before it was set to take off, the strike, originally scheduled for October 10, was meant to pressure government to take strong action against the rampant illegal mining that threatens our rivers and water bodies. Now, we sure know, in response to this, the government, led by President Akufo-Addo, outlined several what they consider to be enhanced measures, including the revocation of key mining regulations, the redeployment of military personnel, and the establishment of dedicated courts to handle illegal mining cases. These steps prompted Labour to suspend the strike action. At least we are told, according to a statement they have just issued. But the decision has not been without controversy. We begin tonight's discussion with Professor Ransford Jampo, President of the University of Ghana chapter of UTAG, the University Teachers Association of Ghana, who was present at the meeting where this decision was made some way, somehow. In a statement issued earlier on social media, Professor Jampo highlighted deep concerns about how the leadership of organized labor handled the meeting. According to him, two of the leaders came to the meeting with a prepared speech calling for the suspension of the strike, which led to the heated exchange. As many felt, the government's new proposals did not differ significantly from previous ones. The meeting ended somehow with difficulties, and UTAG's NEC, that's the highest body within UTAG, is expected to meet later tonight to decide its next course of action. Now, we shall be exploring that if we have Professor Ransford Jampo with us for a conversation on this particular point. Certainly, we should be able to get to the details of that. But with such internal disagreements among key stakeholders, we ask, what does it mean for the broader fight against illegal mining in the Republic of Ghana? Joining me in this conversation will be a man who's been a major advocate, who is going to speak to us about what is the greatest call by government, which is more military boots on the ground. Colonel Festus Abuaje would review that. But before that, we should be able to also speak to a labor expert and former minister in charge of employment, Austin Game, to appreciate what all these dynamics mean for the unity or disunity on the front of labor in the first place. We'll start with this conversation. First and foremost, let's get to the very details of what's been happening in the Republic of Ghana. Now, the very first statement from the Office of the President is what's on your screen now, where they are calling for some swift action to be taken. In this case, some very, very important things to be done. Indeed, the presidency appears to have indicated that this is the best action they could have taken so far. So if I could read to you, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has taken action in response to a press release issued by organized labor on the 7th, now calling for an immediate halt to illegal mining in and around water bodies and forest reserves. In a demonstration of government's commitment to tackle the issue, President Akufo-Addo, through the relevant sector ministers, invited the leadership of organized labor to a meeting on Tuesday, 8th of October 2024 at the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. Following the meeting, the President, in the letter dated the 9th of October 2024, addressed the leadership of organized labor, outlined the following measures, and the measures are on your screen. I'll go through the three most important ones. Deployment of additional military personnel. The President has directed the Minister for Defense to deploy additional military forces to intensify the ongoing Operation Halt, which aims to curb illegal mining activities. The operation will be bolstered by the deployment of naval boats on polluted river bodies to ensure the immediate cessation of all mining activities, legal or illegal, in and around water bodies. The other point is also the suspension of mining in forest reserves. The President has instructed the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation, along with the EPA, to suspend the enforcement of the Environmental Protection, that's Mining in Forest Reserves Regulation 2023 LI 2462, with immediate effect. The next one says there's a strengthening of the prosecution of illegal mining, and it says in a bid to enhance legal actions against illegal mining activities, 4 dedicated courts have already been established 4 dedicated courts have already been established. The President has further directed the Attorney General to work with the Chief Justice to come to some understanding on what should be done next. In fact, to increase the number of courts handling cases related to illegal mining. The 4th one says there's a call for a national pact on illegal mining. Government has urged organized labor to encourage all presidential candidates and their political parties to sign a pact committing themselves to the fight against illegal mining as part of their election pledges. In light of these decisive actions, government respectfully requests organized labor suspend its planned strike action on 10th October 2024, that's tomorrow, and collaborate with government and other stakeholders to ensure the effective combat of the Galamsey menace. President Akufo-Addo remains determined to end illegal mining and calls on all citizens, political leaders, and stakeholders to unite in this critical national effort. This is signed by the Director of Communications at the Office of the President, Eugene Ahen. But is this enough? We sure should be getting that reaction from, as you have gotten to know, the people who are leading this charge. And one of them was the University Teachers Association of Ghana. Professor Ransford Jampo should be able to join me on this conversation to get you some details on that. But this is what Professor Ransford Jampo put out, and I'll be reading to you in detail. He says, colleagues, good evening. As I indicated earlier, we were called to get briefing about some new proposals government had made in response to our demand that illegal mining be addressed. The following happened at the meeting. He said the first one, 2 of the leaders, Joshua Ansah and Dr. Bampo, came to the meeting with an already prepared speech calling for the suspension of the intended strike. The second one says, we questioned the propriety of their action and they apologized. Then they read the supposed new interventions from government to us. We responded that the interventions were not different in substance from the ones we discussed and rejected at the meeting on Monday, 7th of October, and that government should at least place a temporary moratorium on mining for a few days so that we can all discuss the practicalities of all these proposals. The next point Professor Jampo makes is that the leadership of organized labor refused to listen. And before we could make further suggestions, they called in the media and read their already prepared speech to them. The meeting was rancorous and acrimonious. It ended in disunity. The 5th point says, UTAG NEC meets over this tonight, and given the overwhelming support we have given to the fight against illegal mining via the voting outcomes of the public universities across the country, let us brace ourselves to be the only conscience of the nation in the fight against the existential threat that confronts all of us. Point 6 says it has been heated and upsetting, and we are hoping to pull ourselves together to give further updates after our next meeting this evening. Good evening to you all. It says Ransford Jampo is the one signing it, President, University of Ghana, University Teachers Association of Ghana. So this is what Professor Jampo tells us really happened in that meeting. Some clarity will be required when we're able to raise him. We'll be back after this break to tell you exactly what TUC said happened at this meeting. You welcome back to our front, and I do have Professor Ransford Jampo with me now, and I did read to you the statement he has shared with his colleagues and also on social media. You're obviously disappointed that the meeting did not go as planned. Is that the end of the fight of you in labor against illegal mining?
Hi, my brother, good evening. I think, as you may have seen, my update and briefing to my members. Sorry for my voice. Today's meeting was so rancorous that we had to be screaming and shouting and all that. So I lost my voice. But the point is that we are not happy with what happened today. And so, given that university teachers across the 15 public universities have already voted as of yesterday to go on and to press home their demand that something concrete gets done to deal with illegal mining and its dangerous ecological footprints it is leaving. We would meet tonight shortly and then take a finalized decision and communicate it to Ghanaians. Don't forget that this will not be the first time that UTAG may be leading a national call. It so happened that when the government wanted to extend its tentacles unnecessarily into the affairs of public universities and to try to control them through the introduction of the very antiquated and obnoxious public universities bill, it was you that fought it to ensure that it was garbaged. And so, once again, we will not be disappointing Ghanaians if organized labor has decided to go on a route of abrupt end to its own threats, even though we don't see something that is presented to them by government as by way of the kinds of things that can be done to address the menace. I think we have decided that we will never allow Ghanaians to be disappointed. We would need to understand what we want to do, but everybody must be
I seem to be losing you, Prof. Forgive me, but...
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Like I said, I lost my voice, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you better now. You were making the point about you not disappointing the people on this fight, and you've been on your own in times past pushing for what is right in the Republic of Ghana. The simple question will be, what will it take for you to be convinced that there are enhanced measures or government is committed to this fight?
So the kinds of things that he said he will be doing, there are the kinds of things that our politicians will say. Haven't we heard that we have deployed soldiers there? There are things that can be done while at the same time illegal mining will be going on. So all that we were harmlessly asking for was at least for a moratorium to be placed on mining. And if you say a moratorium, it's not a ban. So when you talk about ban, it sends shivers down the spine of some people because they feel that if you ban mining, then miners may not be voting for a particular party or they may be voting for a particular, which for me does not make sense. When human beings are dying, you don't talk about votes. When human beings are dying, you don't talk about money. It means you don't even have a sense of your own priority because all will be the value of money if you don't have life, if you don't have health. And so, if ban sends shivers down the spine of some people who have no sense of priority, we're just saying that put a temporary suspension. And that temporary suspension could just even be 1 week, or 2 weeks, or 3 days. Let there be that moratorium, and let us all begin to discuss the feasibility of the kinds of interventions that government has outlined, and to own it and police it, so that we would all be on the same page. It appears that nobody wanted to listen to us.
Earlier in the day, the Ghana Medical Association and perhaps the other allied health professionals, nurses, midwives, and also hospital pharmacists all declared their non-interest in proceeding on this strike. Apart from UTAG, and which other groupings were...
Please, you have outlined, there are so many, I am not in a position to mention all of them.
Okay.
But there are so many members of the organized labor. If you came to the venue, you would have seen, including Ghana Mortuary Workers Association. And it is only GMA, and some members of GMA are even not too happy with that statement that GMA issued, if you see what is the backlash following that statement. But generally, GMA didn't say, they said they are in solidarity with what organized labor was doing. Ghana Registered Nurses and Associations, they also said they are in solidarity but they felt that they would not go on strike. And I said, well, of course, they are essential service. And so when we are striking and we are not well, we go there for healthcare. But the point is that the day that all of us would agree, society would crumble. You should have guaranteed disagreement as feature of every society. But even if people would disagree, the way and manner we manage their disagreement would show whether people are doing things maliciously or deliberately, or whether the moves that are being undertaken are state managed or choreographed. And I'm saying that the way and manner the meetings were held today showed that something was state managed. I don't know what I told you, but the leaders of organized labor came there with a statement that had already been prepared. And when they said the media guys, you guys in the media should excuse us to have a meeting, then they read the statement to us. So some of us drew their attention to the impropriety of what they are sought to do. If you had called us into a meeting, it means we're going to be discussing. We said government had some enhanced proposals to address the menace. And so we're going to listen. But they came to read a statement that said the strike should be called off. And we said, but we have not discussed anything. So why do you come with a prepared statement? And they apologized. And then they outlined whatever government said it was going to do. And we said that whatever government said it was not going to do was not so different in substance from what had been outlined to us on Monday, which we had discussed and rejected. And so if it is not so different, then we cannot change our mind. But whilst we're at it, we're not done. Then quickly, these guys called the media in and then read the statement that had already been prepared to them. And so, like I said, the meeting was tense, it was acrimonious, it was rancorous, and we're not happy about it. And so we, as UTAG, would meet this evening to decide on what we want to do. And let me remind you again that even as we decide, the 15-member public universities have already voted to go on industrial action with or without organized labor, to press home our demand that the right thing must be done. Concrete measures would have to be put in place to ensure that at least we contrast the kinds of things that are being done to help fight the existential threat that we all as a people face.
It's a side of a divided front, but is this really that deep-seated, or the division is only on this matter? Can those of you in UTAG still trust the leadership of organized labor?
Well, like I said, we're not happy with the way and manner they went about things. Even when we sought to draw their attention that they came there with already prepared speech, we eventually ended up reading the same speech that they had already prepared without taking on board any of the things that we said. And so then there's trust issue. And that's the reason why, like I said, we will meet and damn whatever they sought to do, we'll speak in our own language.
I am grateful to you, Professor Ransford Jampo, and I'm grateful to you for your time this evening. Professor Ransford Jampo is the president of the University of Ghana branch of UTAG, that's the University Teachers Association of Ghana. He was in that meeting. He just talked about how it was rancorous, the decision for them to suspend the strike because they felt it had been stage managed. That was his word there. Joining me in studio on this conversation, and very soon I should have a labor expert put all of this in perspective for me, but on Friday, there's the expectation that there will be a match. I call it a holy war because it is holy people, religious, godly people from the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Accra. And if you have seen that statement going around by the Archbishop, the Metropolitan Archbishop, asking members to be part of this all-important march, prayer march, to actually send a signal to the rest of this country about how serious the situation is. Joining me in studio is the Chancellor of the Archdiocese. And because he shares my name, Reverend Father Raymond Acquah joins me now. Reverend, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I hope you are doing well.
Very well, yes.
Will you suspend your march because Labour has called off the strike?
It will be very unfortunate to think of that because our decision to have the environmental prayer walk had nothing to do with the actions or inactions or plans of the Labour. We have been calling for this for some time now. So it will be very, very unfortunate to, link the two up like that. We're calling for the death and genocide, ecocide, and just, greediness, sheer greediness, as our bishops call it. So that's what we are doing. So it has nothing to do with it just so happened that the timings seem to have coincided, but we're keeping to our lines, and we're keeping very focused to have a prayer, an environmental prayer walk. And as the name goes, it's an environmental prayer walk, meaning that our focus is not just Galamsey. Our focus is the environment. But Galamsey is the one that is leading. It's that which is just getting us to be extinct on earth probably before we are ready for it.
I know that you've been a priest for about 23
years.
23 years, right?
23 years, yes.
Yes. Has this ever happened?
This kind of a
environmental prayer walk?
No. It hasn't ever happened because we haven't also seen this kind of degradation before.
Okay.
It has never been. I mean, if anybody, if this, and if you put it into perspective, the Catholic Bishops' Conference over the years has issued communique, 2009, 2010, 2015, 2016, 2023, and as early as late as early as September this year.
Okay.
Already there is a communique from the Catholic Bishops' Conference stating that the time to act is now.
Okay.
So, and this was 11th of September. I do not know whether organized labor had given their date.
Actually, it was the same day that they also issued the statement.
Well, you see, that's it. So
yeah, it was 11th of September. That's when they made the demands. Actually.
Okay, but our the bishop's communique is dated 11th September. Okay. Obviously, the bishops would have gone into conclave, their little conclave, to plan and deliberate about this. And all this is on the backdrop of the Pope in 2015 gave a document known as Laudato Si, the care of our community. In fact, when you read a document, you would think that it is speaking about us in Ghana. Number 160, very Laudato Si number 160, talks about the fact that those who are in authority seem to minimize the effect and try to give masking to the whole thing, but it will come eating us. In fact, you would think that the Pope was in Ghana, but he was just being prophetic. Why? Because we have seen it across the world, and it's just come to us. We cannot sit as ostrich. You cannot play ostrich and not just talk about it. So this has nothing. It's not. It is political, but not partisan.
Certainly. Please hold on a second for me. I'll come back to you because there's a lot more to explore on what will be happening on Friday.
Perfect.
Let me go straight to Zoom, and I'm joined by Labour expert and former Employment Minister, Austin Game. Mr. Game, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Raymond.
Now, are you disappointed in the decision to suspend, they didn't call it off, suspend the strike because they say they have seen or heard of enhanced measures? I just spoke to the UTAG president who believes that they came into the meeting with a prepared speech. When they were called in to dialogue on the issues and take a decision, there are difficulties with that. They also believe that what government considers to be enhanced measures are the same set of things they've been telling them in the last week or so, which they had taken a decision on previously and considered same as not good enough. In fact, to them, at least a moratorium on mining would have sufficed if that was the middle ground for them to actually reach some consensus. But it appears organized labor was bent on calling off this strike. Early on, groups like GMA, groups like Gospel, groups like the midwives and the registered nurses had all withdrawn from it. Indeed, there were also threats by some lead of institutions like the board chairman of the Ghana Meteorological Agency, threatening members who stepped out for the demonstration that they will not be countenanced. Again, the alcoholic beverage producing company, one of those ones, yes, Gayhawk, well, its boss had also issued a similar threat, but it culminated into the decision of organized labor to take strike off the table now. Prudent decision?
Certainly not prudent. I think that this is what you want to describe as leadership through disruptions. Our lives are being disrupted in a very cunning way by people who think they are leaders. And at this moment, I can tell you my strongest, views about this. And it is without any apology of any kind. The problem is that people think that we are all the same. And people think that the fingers are the same. It's not true. We are never the same. God has created all of us and put us in this world. But there are his chosen ones, whether people like it or not. At the moment, it appears there is nobody that will help people who are helpless. So they need help. And the help can only come from God. And I want to say without any equivocation that God will avenge for the people who are forced to be drinking this poisonous water and to be breathing this toxic air in Ghana here. God will avenge. I know it is because of the upcoming elections. And God is going to take total control and avenge for the people who are drinking this poisonous water and breathing this toxic water, and those people who need herbs from the forest and they will never get again. May God help this nation. But this is completely a disruption of the life of the people of Ghana. Look at your screen. Look at what you are showing. When will this ever be experienced? This restoration that we are seeking for the Pra River, for the Brim River, for the Densu River that many people are relying on. Now there is a heavy dose of disappointment. I hope and pray that God will use the people who will come to Parliament on the 15th of October to fight for the cause of the common people. But I think that regardless of this, let's still keep some little bit of faith, a little bit of faith in organized labor, that they may rediscover their rough edges and be able to pull themselves together. Some of us are available. If they need help, we can offer help.
I need to get this straightened out to the likes of UTAG, who are disappointed in the general body's decision. In fact, I just spoke to Professor Jampo. He used the word, it was stage managed. Do you think there's still hope for any form of leadership when it comes to this fight? Because UTAG says it's meeting tonight, and it will not succumb to any pressure to take decisions that's not in the collective interest of Ghanaians.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. This is complete leadership disruption. We are leading through disruption of our lives. And I said at the end of my little contribution earlier that I have still maintained a little substance of faith in the leadership of organized labor, that they will go back and pick the pieces together and be able to meet and address these concerns. I'm a facilitator, I'm a mediator. They know my stand. And by God's grace, what I am. And so I want to say that we need to be very careful in this country, because I went somewhere today to lead a negotiation somewhere. People were selling water, and the water I bought is not a Ghanaian, one of the products from Ghana here, from outside. And it was very costly. And that was the only water available in that enclave there. And so clearly there are some people who can afford, some people may not be able to afford it. And for how long can, even if you have the money to finish one day? All I want to say is that aside God being our helper, organized labor is the only body that can click and say something. If the religious bodies in Ghana will not cooperate and help in this direction also, and it's only organized labor that is available, they should rediscover themselves. Nothing is too late, but this is a serious disruption in our lives. And I pray that people will understand and appreciate the difficulties that we are being plunged into by the people who are ruling us for now. It's a very serious, situation in which we find ourselves. They can joke with it.
Let's talk labor now. Forgive me. Let's talk labor now. Do you think they will ever be able to present a united front again?
Yes, all they have to do is to rediscover themselves. Labor has faced these kind of disruptions before. They've pulled themselves out from the ashes and were able to gather themselves together and move forward. If they will have cool heads, they will be able to pull themselves together. It's very tough. It's very difficult. Some may not trust. Some may not have confidence, but they need to pull themselves together. And that's the intent. That's the intent that they put them through. But it's for them to realize that it's not about this form of labor-related matters. It's not about salary. It's not about allowances alone. It's about, this one is even more serious than pay increase, because you are not even going to be alive to enjoy even the personal increase. This is what they must take note of. Our hospitals are going to be inundated in the next few days and months with all kinds of diseases. God help those who are his not to be affected.
Now, the other question, though, is before labor officially came out, we saw board chairmen, CEOs, basically instructing workers not to partake in this impending strike, which was called off. Is that standard practice within our labor remit, laws and systems that we have put for ourselves?
Well, employers can threaten. But this is not a strictly speaking, a direct labor-related matter. This is an environmental degradation par excellence. And it is up to organized labor coming under both the Constitution, under the directive principles of state policy, Article 36, and Section 113B and C of the Labor Act 2003 and 651 to deliberate, because they have the right to deliberate over matters of this nature, and call an emergency national tripartite committee, discuss and put it to the president and put it to parliament to ensure that their members are safe and the larger society are safe, because one of the surest spokespersons for a country, working people, even those who are not working, is organized labor. That is why we did not limit it to TUC, Ghana Federation of Labor, nurses, and this. That's why we didn't limit it. And we pulled them together under the law as organized labor. I think people need to go to the history of labor and trade unionism. People need to understand and appreciate the paradigm shift in the dynamics of making people to benefit from why they join organizations like trade unions. And even those who didn't join and are in the informal sector, which has predominantly about 6 million people, they need to be protected. And I think that the government need to understand that they have sworn oath to protect the people in this country that voted them into power in the first place. And so they have a big responsibility. Now, to the substantive issue, those managing directors, CEOs, who think that they have power today and are threatening people about protecting their own lives, they shouldn't think that they'll be there forever. Nobody will stay here permanently. There'll be some situation that will happen very, very soon in this world. and they will be victims themselves.
Now, let me finally ask you. You were in studio with me when the strike was declared, when there were indications that there are attempts to break the front of labor. You were very optimistic that labor has a very formidable front, which cannot be broken at any point in time. Obviously, you were wrong.
Certainly, I wasn't wrong. What it is that the employer, being government, found that this is a potent body. Of course, I've seen the communique issued by government. I've seen some reasonable things that have been mentioned, but it is not adequate enough to address the concerns that we have. It's about causing suspension, if you like, of all Galamsey related matters, whether it is so-called community, whether it is so-called small scale or artisanal, to enable a national conversation to be convened. And we have a kind of brainstorming session, generate various options, and reach consensus on how to help our brothers and sisters who are involved in genuine artisanal or community mining. Okay. For now, there is a total disruption, and that is what I think organized labor should have. And we some of us, by God's grace, we have been in this for many, many years now. I think we are older than most of them who are there now. And I think that it is important they recognize that we are not the same, but we are many. And that if there is an issue in this country, we have to find people who have the capacity to engage and lead and facilitate this conversation to enable us to have a solution that will satisfy all of us. Our brothers and sisters who are doing the artisanal and genuine mining, nobody is against them. Responsible mining, okay. But what is on your screen now? How can it be described as a genuine mining when it's being done in forests or in water bodies that has disrupted our lives completely? Uncle, I think I'm very much disappointed, to be honest with you.
Uncle Game, I'm grateful to you for your time this evening, and I'm grateful that you shared some perspectives on this matter with us. Coming back in studio, I still have the Chancellor of the Catholic Archdiocese of Accra, the Reverend man who perhaps will be leading and be in the forefront of the demonstration, which is not called off, which is not suspended, which is less likely to be suspended because we still have a day to go, you know. It was also a day to go that the Labour people suspended their own, so sometimes people are not sure. But you are saying here that nothing will change that planned demonstration on Friday.
The environmental prayer walk.
Is that important? Is it different from any other protest, any other demonstration?
Yes, because the emphasis, the tool is with prayer. It's the fact that prayer is that which will open the doors, and look at the impasse that we are seeing here and there. Mm-hmm. If God doesn't intervene, then we will have people having their way. I want to say on record, you know, we had one of our priests over the years, many years ago, about more than 25 years ago, okay, who was just, you know, knocked down by, you know, articulator driver. And then the guy just sped off and ran away. When he got home, he went to tell his family that, well, this is what happened along the road, and, you know, that some guy was misbehaving, riding his motorbike, and then he just, you know, did his thing to him, and he doesn't even know what happened to him. The following day, to his amazement, the seminary authorities went to their home, reporting the death of his nephew. And apparently, the guy that he hit on the road was his own nephew. Wow. This is a true story of that happened. Now, this is what is happening to Ghana. Wow. This is what is happening to Ghana. Because if we don't rise up and we are going to keep quiet and we are not going to address the environmental menace, it would come back to us. Some people are asking, why is Accra doing it and not at the places where the mining is going on.
Yeah.
This is because our relatives are there.
Okay.
And if you think you can just hit somebody, you can just misbehave, you can just, do things in a way, it's going to come back to us. And I love what is being called, one of our big calls is that we need a moratorium, we need a ban, we need something to halt everything. Why? Because in the Christian circles, look at the Catholic Church, every Lent, we dedicate 40 solid days to fasting, to prayers. It's not because food is bad. Food is good, but you fast so as to be able to take steps. So we're calling on government. We're calling on the people who are involved in this, Galamsey. What is it that they are gaining that they cannot hold? You don't, an unexamined life is not worth living. We need to pause. We need to pause and say, what is the extent of the damage? Is the gold or whatever that is being mined, is it precious than life? Can we? Why is everybody interested in focusing on the election when people are dying?
Now, the understanding for such a protest, you don't need permission from the police. That is not even part of the conversation. But I need to notify them.
That's right.
Have they been notified?
Police has been properly notified. And in fact, we are in good conversation with them. We have had a very fruitful discussion with them. We have directed us the route which we are going to use. It's going to be purely prayer. And for us Catholics in this time of October, ours is to pray the rosary, which, October is the month, especially October 13th, where Mother Mary's miracle just changes things. So we are trusting that some hearts will be touched. So but it's going to be just prayer. And we want to walk through some principal streets of Accra and end up at the Christ the King Catholic Church, where we have a grotto, which beautifully is just adjacent to the presidency. And with the good conversation with the police and the presidency, they will allow us to go and make a petition to the president. On that day, we are making 3 petitions. 1, to God Almighty who gave us this land, and ask him for forgiveness. We are going to petition the one who has supremacy of power in our motherland, the president. And we are going to petition Ghanaians, Catholics, everybody, that we are all in this. Let us not look at it only blaming, doing the blame game. If we will all join hands and say, why don't we reflect on this? Give a break. Examine the damage that has been done to us and ask us, if one more gold is dug out of the ground or taken from the river in such inhumane fashion, what will posterity say to us?
Now, I saw a statement, it was attributed to the Metropolitan Archbishop. I don't know whether it's actually factual or false, that the work has been hijacked by politicians. Is that fake news?
Well, it's not fake news, but it's not attributed to the Metropolitan Archbishop of Accra. It must have been said by the Metropolitan Archbishop of Kumasi.
Okay.
The Kumasi Archdiocese. So he spoke on that issue. But the Metropolitan Archbishop of Accra, of whom I represent here, of the Archdiocese, and I must also say very emphatically that this is not just the making of the Catholic Archdiocese of Accra. The Conference of Major Superiors, all our religious bodies, they are the ones who have been pushing us to this aspect of our responsibility. So the Conference of Major Superiors, harnessing and bringing all the religious, when we talk about the religious, let's call them the international priests, those who don't just work in Ghana, those who've had opportunity to work all over the world, bringing their expertise, their experience together and saying that, look, we've seen these things happen in other parts of the world. The way you are dancing, this is how you're going to fall. So the Conference of Major Superiors, together with the Catholic Archdiocese, have been very consistent. And up to this very moment, we are very consistent that we're going to pray. Initially, we were praying that government should listen to us. But with what we are hearing, the prayer still maintains, and we say, Lord, thank you that they are listening to us, but they need to listen more. So if it stops, then it would have been a defeat. And how we pray that all, Catholic means universal.
Okay.
So everybody is Catholic, as long as you're going to join us and pray.
That's the other question I was asking. I mean, for practicing Catholics like myself and professing Catholics like others I know, and for others who are non-Catholics, even new Pentecostals, are they all invited?
Well, that's what it means. Catholic is universal.
Okay.
I mean, until the coming of all other churches, the Catholic Church has always been the Catholic Church. And we have maintained it so. So in fact, the Catholic is for everybody. And as long as you believe in the cause of humanity, life, you are invited. You come and we pray. And it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be massive. And what is beautiful, So this is not just limited to the Accra Archdiocese. Others from across the country can join. Well, as long as they will join us and pray.
Okay.
That's why we want to emphasize that it is a prayer, environmental prayer walk. And we're going to direct, and for example, we're going to be carrying placards, but you cannot bring your placards because we're going to fish all those things out. Of course, when God calls his children, everybody comes, whether the good, whether the bad.
Yeah.
So we anticipate that, many people would like to come and join in and probably want to have their pound of flesh or make their statement. And well, that's all part. There can be Judases amongst us. But if the call is that we're going to pray. We're going to pray and we're going to pray. And already, just by the announcement, look at what is happening. And if announcement of our prayer walk is equal to this kind of reaction, then what about if we pray? Now, let me also sound this. It's not about numbers.
Okay.
It's not about numbers. If one person shows up, and that was what Abraham argued with God, that if I only find 50, 40, 30, 20, one man righteous. So the Archbishop of Accra, together with the superiors of the Conference of Major Superiors, are saying that even if it's one person, we're going to go out and we're going to pray. And we believe in the power of prayer. And let no one stay at home and say that, well, I wish I could have been there, when you should have been there. And even if you cannot come because it is genuine, then ours is that pray. Pray with us. Because where we are leading to, if you look at the bishop's statement, the communique that came on 11th of September, they were emphatic. If you look at the document of the Holy Father, Laudato Si, it is emphatic. And if we look at common sense and common experience, I've just been to the Garura area of Accra, and I've seen it with my own eye. And we have a priest working in Jema, in the Western region, Father Blay, and he's been able to, convince a whole township. And they are intact, and they are managing not to get into this menace.
Illegal mining.
But then, whereas they are trying their best, the water that is seeping underground, how long, would they be able to? So if communities like Jema would do so, why can't we all do it? Why are people staying at home? If you do not even join in the walk, you can show that, yes, let's talk environment. Ghana is dying. We've never seen this before. And that's why you are seeing men of God, as you say, coming out. This is unprecedented. It is unprecedented. And we cannot stay in our mission houses. Very soon, there will be nobody to preach to, and maybe we ourselves will be leading the death tools.
We'll talk about converging points because you did mention that you culminate finally at Christ the King.
Christ the King, yeah.
But where is the converging point?
We calling on everybody to gather from 8 o'clock at the Holy Spirit Cathedral. We'll begin with a prayer. We'll begin with, singing of not songs that are but very religious songs to be able to put ourselves into prayer. And at exactly 10 o'clock, we will begin the prayer walk. We shall go through in front of the Accra Ridge Hospital and go down through the Osu Cemetery, go as far as to the Presby Church, and then hit the Oxford Street. Get to Dankwa through the St. Thomas Aquinas School, and then go to the very end, and then we would now approach the Christ the King parish. And then from there, whilst the rest of the people go to the grotto to pray, a number of us will be chosen to go and make the presentation at the presidency. At least this is the understanding we have with the police, and we are trusting that they will assist us. Of course, within our own ranks as Catholics, we are not just going to leave ourselves rowdy and just praying. This is not new. We always go out every October. We just did one in August. Just that the intention was not on Galamsey. This time it's on Galamsey. This time it's on the recklessness of our environment. It's bizarre. It's rough. So we haven't. This is our intention, and we just going. It's not new. This prayer is not new. That priests are out to pray, but for the environment, it's new.
Final words before we go, Reverend.
Final words is that what kind of a world are we going to live to posterity? I want to sound a word, prophetic word, to those who govern us, to those who are in the three arms of government, and to all Ghanaians, promising, as we are telling even the so-called, those who are the two parties and whatever, promises don't make action. Factor, action about our environment. If we don't do that, we will use our tears to tell the story, and it will be too late.
Reverend Father Raymond Acquah Tutu is Chancellor at the Accra Archdiocese of the Catholic Church here in the Republic of Ghana. Reverend Father, I'm so grateful for your time this evening.
Thank you.
And to you out there, many thanks to you for watching UPFront too.